I think all of us can unmute ourselves then.
Yeah, all the panelists and the moderator, of course, and for the rest of the members. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much again for joining us today on Tiffin Talks. Today, we are going to talk about something really interesting. We have always seen campaigns around no smoking and, you know, how smoking is bad for health and stuff. But there's one organization which is doing something a little more remarkable, a little step further. And it's talking about the butts. Yes, you heard me right, the cigarette butts. And the session today is actually called Bin That Butt to Save the Environment. We've got a very, very elite panel with us today. Pankaj Chaudhary, who is heading Let's Do It in India. He's the founder of the initiative. And Anra, founder of Wastage 360 Solutions. Khalid, Boudali, Deputy Presiding Officer, ECOSOCC African Union. Naman Gupta, founder, Code Effort. Mr. Siim Kiisler, 4th President of UN Environment Assembly. Ms. Gayatri, Prakash, Chhabria, Trustee, Mukul Madhav Foundation. And Mr. Mahendra Goel, Chief Advisor of Lung Care Foundation, an internationally acclaimed NGO. And, of course, our Master of Ceremonies, none other than Sourish Bhattacharyya, noted author, senior journalist, and a very good friend who will take it over. But before we start the session, this very, very interesting and very, very important session for all of us, I'll ask my colleague Ruchin just to play a short video on Let's Do It India. Thank you so much. Sit back and enjoy.
Together. Are they just 8 letters sitting next to each other, or a reminder for change? A reminder for the power our minds hold to unite for something larger than us. A reminder to cross borders and languages, for that one invisible thread that ties unknown faces together, stirring up our hearts and moving our hands to build the world we dreamt of together. Today, some may say we aren't together, so change must stop. We say we might be physically away, but oh, we're always together. This year, we won't take to the streets. We'll come together yet again to say, let's clean India, let's do it India.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, viewers on our Facebook Live broadcast. We are live, as you know, also on Facebook. So today's subject is very interesting because we keep talking about cigarettes and the harmful effects of cigarettes on human health. We also know about tobacco cultivation being not very environmentally friendly. But what we haven't discussed a lot, though there is increasing scientific literature on the subject, is that cigarette butts, you know, the part of the cigarette we just tip across without even thinking twice about it, or we just, you know, chuck it into the sea, or just, you know, chuck it into the, you know, into the road across our window. Those cigarette butts accumulatively cause as serious a pollution problem as the plastics, which we have been all so actively campaigning against. In fact, we need to understand why are cigarette butts as harmful as cigarettes to the larger human health. We need to also figure out what is so bad about cigarette butts that it should be the top of our top of our mind today. You know, whatever little I could gather is that the world today smokes 16 billion cigarettes a day. That is 7.6 trillion cigarettes. So you can imagine the number of butts that are left behind. And you can see mostly on the streets. You know, even I've seen in some of the cleanest cities of the world, I've seen cigarette butts. I've not seen any other, you know, rubbish, but I've definitely seen cigarette butts having been carelessly strewn around. So we are looking at a monumental problem. We're looking at a problem which has affected our marine environment, our landfills, every part of our ecosystem. One interesting, you know, before we start a discussion, I need to, you know, for people who may be wondering why are we making such a big to-do about cigarette butts. You know, I mean, cigarettes we know are all, you know, they're bad for human health and a lot of research. I mean, now no one needs to be convinced about that fact. But what the point to note is the core of the cigarette butt consists of a plastic filter. Now the plastic filter is a non-biodegradable plastic, and it lasts much beyond the cigarette or the butt. So what we are doing in effect is each time we smoke a cigarette, we are doubly polluting the earth. We are polluting it with the plastic we chuck out with the butt, and of course we're polluting it with secondhand tobacco smoke. So these are this is a very important thought to think about. Now a lot of people have started smoking e-cigarettes. In America, the latest statistics is 10 million adults smoke e-cigarettes. Now e-cigarettes, I think, are a bigger problem because they're entirely made of plastic, and they have a little filter at the end, which is not only made of plastic, but which also has the material that goes into, say, computer chip. Yeah. So we are looking at not only plastic pollution, we're also looking at pollution caused by what we call IT waste, information technology waste. So we're looking at many issues here, and it's good that I must thank Let's Do It, Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary, who's a professor at the law faculty at Delhi University. Now he could have been happily teaching environmental law and attending international conferences and winning awards, but he chose to do something on the ground. And that on the ground activity is Let's Do It. Pankaj, let's begin the discussion with you. Let's hear from you about Let's Do It, and how did you make cigarette butts your new campaign and the big campaign of the year?
Pankaj, you're on mute.
Thank you, sir, for introducing me and introducing Let's Do It India. I would like to thank Tiffin Talks to organizing such a great event on this a very great day, what is called the World Cleanup Day. So this in this Let's Do It India, which is an Indian chapter of Let's Do It World, I was also present in the foundation day of the Let's Do It World, and which I thought is a very good idea to clean a world in a single day, which sounds very impractical, but which is now a practical solution. You have to get your hands dirty to clean the Mother Earth. So all over the world with 24 hours with the different countries, different cities at the same day. And in Let's Do It India, we're organizing this World Cleanup Day from the last 2 years. And we have active team in all the 29 states, and we have all the state leaders. Even now we have district leaders in all the time. We have a strong volunteer-based system. And it's basically, because most of the time we always saying something, but it's very hard to get people on the ground and get up their houses and taking their cities, their localities as their homes. So getting this idea and getting in their mind that the localities, the cities, which belongs to them. So, and you will be amazed to know in the last year, and the second thing, last year also we had, firstly in 2008. About I think 500,000 people came out, and last year it's 1.6 remarkable million people came out of their homes, and they cleaned the beaches of Mumbai, the beaches of Goa, even the Jammu Kashmir, even the Ladakh, even the the remotest part of Arunachal Pradesh, even the Andaman Nicobar Islands. Also, we had a team. So it's basically we have a presence in all the countries. This is very remarkable, and it's I think it's basically because of the teamwork, which because everything happens because of the team. So I'm fortunate enough to in Let's Do It India that we have a fantastic team for us to work. And apart from that, in this cigarette butt, if I say you that we were discussing in our general meeting where Mr. Siim was also present and Khalid sir also present in Tallinn in Estonia, and we were thinking what to do next. And we came in across this particular thing which is built into the trillions, like 6 trillion cigarettes were sold to the 1 billion smokers globally. And even if you ask, go and ask into the, I did also a small survey with my students, with like the people who smoke, with thousands of people we pick up, and we, ask them, do you know what is this? After you smoke, you left it, you just flick of the finger, you throw it away, this. But what is this butt? So they have this in idea, this is a paper. So when we, went to them and we show that, this is not a paper, this is a plastic. You didn't know that even the people are smoking from last, for their whole life, and they didn't recognize that this is a plastic. So this is a small survey we did in India also. So, in globally, we found out that, this is the same problem. And you will be amazed to know that, the Ministry of India in the health, they gave this affidavit to the, National Green Tribunal in India that this particular butt is a biodegradable product. So they even do not put those particular product into the list of, the pollutant.
In fact, it's very interesting. RJ Reynolds and company, they developed a biodegradable butt as far back as the 1950s. But actually, they've been sitting on their butts over that butt, because I guess it's more expensive to produce a biodegradable butt, And I'm surprised that the Ministry of Health didn't even bother to look into such a critical part of the cigarette, and not take action, Pankaj, I'll come back to you, but I wanted to bring Mr. Kiisler. He was the 4th president of the UN Environmental Assembly, and he comes from Estonia, which a lot of us believe is one of the cleanest places on earth to live in. Of course, there are issues even in paradise, but I wouldn't ask Mr. Kiisler to talk about the problems in Estonia, but rather to talk about the cigarette butt issue and how has he addressed it in various international forums. Mr. Kiisler.
Yes, thank you. We are very proud that Estonia is a quite clean place. It's clean, and it is due to lots of sea coast, and it's quite windy, unfortunately, but it helps to keep the air clean, and the awareness of people is considerably high. So relatively clean environment. Cigarette butts issue is really something what is more and more discussed because people start to realize all the dangers of it. We have described here already, and scientists have proved that one cigarette filter can poison 1,000 liters of water, and common people don't know such facts. As you mentioned already, that still many people assume somehow that cigarette butts are biodegradable. They think it will disappear somewhere, someday, somehow, but it won't. And it's a big topic in Estonia today, how to raise the awareness of people on this issue. And one, I think, a good example is a campaign, which is quite big in Estonia, supported by the government also, which I try to show you a picture from my screen of the other computer. I hope you will see it well enough. So you see people paint such pictures. The sea starts here at the manholes of the rainwater drainage or sewages to show people that, and it is done in the 15 biggest cities of Estonia. So once people walk around on the streets, they see those signs, they start asking what are those signs about, they start thinking of it, and then they're looking for explanations, and it's a very good campaign for raising the awareness, for increasing the interest on this topic. And actually, this picture I was showing to you, it is from the Facebook page of our president, or the president of Estonia. So she actually also has gone out. Journalists have been taking pictures herself with her own hands, gathering, picking up cigarette butts from the parks and different places, and so drawing attention to the problem.
I think that's a remarkable way of leading from the front. I think our president deserves our compliments. I also wanted to get Mr. Khalid Boudali into the conversation. Mr. Boudali?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Yeah. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, sir. Good.
Okay,
good. Thank you very much.
You're a senior member of the African Union Secretariat, and you have been doing. Again, I assume you must be doing a lot of work on this matter. And Africa being such a major continent, which is also seeing a lot of growth in the last decade or the last couple of decades. How are you addressing the issue?
Well, first I have to thank you, moderator, and I have to thank all the participants and Let's Do It India for the great work that you guys are doing. Well, the EU approach is to minimize waste, has largely focused on an improving process with the manufacturing locations. We seek to minimize the waste and the waste to landfill associated with our product packaging and production process through the combined approach and reduce, reuse, and recycle. We believe the best approach to tackling litter is for the key stakeholders, such as tobacco companies, governments, environmental bodies, business and local communities to work together to educate and change the behavior. We take our responsibilities in the area of product development and environment impact very seriously. Partner states undertake to promote a healthy environment, adapting national, regional, and continental policies, strategies, and programs, and establish appropriate institutions for the protection and the enhancement of the environment. But the necessary measures to accelerate the reform and innovation process leading to ecologically rational, economically sound, and socially acceptable development politics and policies and programs. But the EU recognized that development activities might have a negative impact on the environment, leading to the degradation of the environment and depletion of natural resources, and that a clean and healthy environment is a prerequisite for sustainable development. Integrate the requirement of environmental protection into the planning and the implementation of policies, national and international activities, especially in order to promote the fight against climate change, the protection of the ocean, and the maintenance of the biodiversity by ensuring the promotion of public support policies, pattern of production and consumption, both sustainable and respectful of the environment.
Right. I guess when we're talking about sustainable development or sustainable a sustainable environment, there are many many loads which we can live without. We have been talking a lot about plastics in general, but now it is quite clear that we need to raise a lot of attention, especially in the light of what Pankaj just said some time ago, to raise our voices against cigarettes in general, and to highlight the issue of cigarette butts as causing the plastic pollution. Now, I want to get Anra into the picture. You're the founder of an organization which is working at. I guess can you talk a little bit about your organization and the work you're doing? I guess you're doing a lot of work with recycling, isn't it?
Sorry?
Or, recycling?
Yes, we work in recycling waste that is usually rejected by a kabadiwala. So a rag picker is a person, especially in developing countries, most of the waste is picked up by people who can go and sell it and get some sort of remuneration for it. But there are a lot of categories, almost 40 categories that get rejected by kabadiwalas and hence end up at a landfill. So we are trying to, advocate and try to get awareness towards recycling of all kinds of zero value waste as well. And one of them is cigarette butts. Okay. And we do believe that collecting it at source will make all the difference.
Right. So I guess, but there is a problem. Like earlier, say restaurants or bars could become sources where cigarette butts could be collected. But today, all restaurants and bars are no smoking zones. In fact, I've seen this, of all places, I remember because Tallinn, the Estonian capital, is also the world's nightlife capital. It has it is a rocking nightlife, And I used to see people standing outside bars and smoking. I'd gone at the height of winter. So they were smoking away and, naturally they were chucking the cigarettes once they were they're done with it.
I wanted to share something regarding that. The difference is, so in Chennai and Tamil Nadu, for example, we have a rule that no public smoking is allowed. And only a hotel, a restaurant or a bar with more than 35-seater can define a smoking area. So we find it a little easier to collect in Chennai because it means that we go to IT parks, hotels, resto bars, and we put up units that would allow a person to segregate the cigarette butts, which means the collection unit, which is made from different kinds of waste, would not allow any other kind of waste to go in other than a cigarette butt, which makes it easier for us to send it to the recycler, who is code effort, Mr. Naman.
Right. In fact, now tell me how many, say in a month, how many cigarette butts do you collect? Of course, I don't think you keep a number count, but how many tons or how many?
The numbers are different pre-COVID and post-COVID, to be honest. However, we do find that a resto bar that can hold about 50 to 60 people, over there we see about 1,000 cigarette butts to 2,000 cigarette butts being generated on a weekend. So 3,000 cigarette butts make 1 kg.
Right.
And it takes time.
As Mr. Kiisler said, 1 cigarette butt is good enough to pollute 1,000 liters of water.
Exactly.
So we can imagine the impact just one resto bar can cause to the seas around Chennai.
Exactly.
We have the Arabian Sea lapping the,
we are a coastal city also.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sea and a beautiful beach. That is a matter of concern, and it's great. So now, okay, you collect these butts. Then what do you do with them?
We collect it at source and we send it to a recycler. The only recycler that we identified in India that is aligned with our thought process and to recycle 100% of the cigarette butts is Code Effort.
Naman Gupta, you're next in queue.
I unfortunately never had the good luck of meeting Mr. Naman, but my colleague has gone to Noida and met him. And we were in fact in talks.
You can thank Tiffin Talks for bringing you close virtually at least.
Yes, thank you. We have actually been talking to them to come and put up a unit, their own recycling unit in the south as well, so that instead of sending it from the southern states and the central states to all the way to Noida, since their plant is in Noida, we've been hoping to be able to set up a unit so we can sustainably recycle these cigarette butts, because the journey of sustainability is ideally we should be recycling and doing all of the recycling work locally. It shouldn't be traveling thousands of kilometers to another state or even country to be recycled. And we hope that the government and local agencies like pollution control boards and different boards in the country would open up and allow us to categorize cigarette waste as a different kind of hazardous waste. It is toxic, it is hazardous, it cannot be left behind as, even if it's not biodegradable, it has to be classified as a toxic waste is what we believe.
Absolutely. That's, I think that's a very important takeaway from this discussion so far. Now, Naman, over to you, because, by the way, if anyone wants any action to start on cigarette butts, a lot of my friends in the hotel and restaurant industry, please note that, we have Anra and Wasted 360 solutions to turn to. I mean, if you go Google and Anra, you'll find a lot of, entries against her name. So you'll get all the details of how to connect with her on LinkedIn and other places. Now, Naman, I don't see Naman. Okay, I can see you, sorry. So Naman, can you unmute yourself? Yeah, you're unmuted. Yeah, please talk about the work you're doing. Very interesting work. And can you talk a little bit about this whole issue of, remunerative waste and unremunerative waste, and how you work on both fronts.
Thank you, sir, for holding such a great session. Like Mr. Khalid said, that we need a sustainable project to make something effective. So this cigarette waste campaign, the awareness is very nice. So we need a system to create a circular economy so that we can benefit the society as well as we can uh, recycle the waste. And whatever the material that we collect from India, like through wasted solutions and through our partnership with LDI, so this waste is recycled through our technology, and we are put up in Noida in the state of Uttar Pradesh. And this, after recycling, we are producing a lot of finished products from these recycled materials, which is either sold or donated in the market, sir.
Now, what are, like, with cigarette butts, what can you do?
We are doing with the cigarette buds only, sir. Like our
Yeah,
primary
what do you make from, what do you make out of them, or what do you create out of them?
So basically, if you might have seen a cigarette butts, it has a paper covering over it that is like a brown or white color. So that is a paper in nature. And the
Right.
filter that is inside, like that is a fiber material, which is cellulose acetate, and
Acetate, yeah.
that, yes, that causes the major damage because it holds all the chemicals. So
Right.
for the paper that we get, first it is separated manually because there's no specific automated system to separate the paper from the filter in India currently. So after separating, the paper is processed and used in mosquito repellents and organic compost. Like in the video, we saw that we are using it in composting. So the paper is used for composting and mosquito repellents. And from the filter, that is going through a biodegradable chemical procedure, which is like a 24-hour process. And after recycling, that is used as a stuffing currently in cushions as well as soft toys. We have mattresses. Plus, we deal in small handicrafts also, like keychains and stuff like that, sir.
Oh, interesting. Because I believe a typical cigarette filter captures about 4,000 chemicals, of course, including nicotine. So you clean all these chemicals out, during the 24-hour process you're talking about.
Yes, sir. Our chemicals are specifically designed to remove almost all the chemicals that are trapped in the materials. And before using it into our final products, we go through a quality check and approval from certified labs so that we can also ensure that whatever we are selling and manufacturing is of quality products, sir.
Great. I think you're doing a fantastic job. I hope you'll soon open your unit in Chennai and
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
solve Anne's problem, of, so anyways, coming to Gayatri, Prakash, Chhabria, Gayatri, you, as far as I could gather, and, I just read up about you and your foundation on the net. So can you tell us a little bit about your foundation? You're, of course, very much linked with Phenolics Industries. This is well known. I mean, so what is the connection of Phenolics Industries with your foundation? And what are the kind of things you're doing? And what is the connection with this whole Let's Do It movement, and especially this campaign to clean our ecosystem of cigarette butts?
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here and sharing the stage with all of you. Thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya. Mukul Madhav Foundation is a 22-year-old NGO that's based out of Pune, Maharashtra. It is essentially run by my mother, my father, and myself. We've been working across 7 verticals, namely healthcare, education, water conservation, sanitation, and social welfare. I was fortunate to be introduced to Mr. Chaudhary last year through a dear friend, Payal Rajpal, and we participated in the World Cleanup Day in 2019. Then again, we joined hands with him on the 5th of June for the digital cleanup drive, which he initiated, where I also made an effort to bring on board another 10 or 12 corporates that we were. And when he told me about this campaign that he was about to launch, I found it very interesting because, I think charity begins from home. My father has been a smoker, but I'm happy to say that over the last 7 months he hasn't. I've been successfully able to convert him into a non-smoker. So
Wow.
the minute I realized I can do that and I can begin at home, I thought, why not do my bit to, spread awareness and the message to the society that we live in. At Finolex, we have adopted the parameters set out and being shared by Let's Do It India. So all our plants and offices now dispose of their cigarette butts separately. We are connecting with NGOs locally or with associations that pick up the garbage to ensure that this waste is being discarded carefully and separately. So we're trying to do our bit as a corporate, as individuals as well. And of course, Mr. Chaudhary knows that through my good offices, I am trying to ensure that other corporates who may be friends or associations of mine, we're trying to reach out to them and requesting them to adopt this as well. So all in all, I thought that it was a very different campaign. And like you said at the start, everyone talks about smoking and the hazards, but nobody tends to realize how powerful that little butt in fact is. So that's where I found it quite exciting, realized that we can align, and that's why we're participating.
That's very good, and congratulations on on actually making charity begin at home. That's fantastic to hear. Gayatri, I just wanted to ask you. You said that you at Finolex. How many people work at Finolex, by the way?
So our corporate office houses 120 people, and then we have a force of around 300 who are pan-India. But our factories have around 2,000 to 2,500 people on the shop floor. So
how many cigarette butts do you generate in a week or say in a month? How many kilos or how many
So I like like Anne mentioned, there has been a lesser count that we've seen because employees are working 50% at the offices, and in the 50%, then there's an even smaller percentage who are actually smokers. But we have made the effort of putting up on notice boards and having internal emailers wherein we're trying to raise awareness of convincing employees to even try and get off this habit, because that would be an ideal scenario. But to be very honest with you, I'm not very confident of the numbers or the drop that I've seen, but I do know that it's definitely been drastic thanks to COVID essentially. And,
no, but, I'm talking about the drop as much as I'm talking about how many cigarette butts get generated in a place like, say, a factory of Finolex.
Okay. We can estimate that at least 20% are smokers. And, India is also known for BD. So not many would be smoking cigarettes, but BD. But we do find on average 100, 150 butts, every day. And this is a very recent activity that we started. So I don't really have good, healthy numbers to share with you as data collected over the months. But yeah, that is quite a considerable amount. I understand.
If you multiply it, it comes to about 4,500 bucks a month.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's quite a serious number, I mean, and the fact that you're at least making an effort to conserve it, bring it all together and then dispose of it in a way that is best suited to the environment.
Absolutely.
I think that's really good that you're doing it. I hope more people follow in your footsteps.
Thank you.
Pune is right now absolutely in the news. We are all hoping to see the first COVID vaccine to come out.
Well. Yes, absolutely. In fact, I take this opportunity to share that along with Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary and his organization, we are going to be launching a hackathon in the month of October, wherein we have joined hands with Adar Poonawala Clean City, who happens to also be,
Serum Institute.
Family of Serum Institute India. So we will be working very closely with him, wherein we're launching a 48-hour hackathon, which will aim to bring in solutions wherein you deploy more humanoids and robots to assist us on cleaning roads and segregating garbage, etc. So hopefully that will go off well as well, and will contribute to the larger picture of keeping our environment cleaner than we are and doing our best to preserve what we have.
Fantastic. That's so good to hear. So, Mr. Goel, you have been working with the Lung Care Foundation, and I guess I don't know. I don't know much about your foundation. I would love to hear more about it from you. But so far all our activities, against smoking, they've all focused on the effects of smoking on people's health. Yeah, but they've hardly focused on the impact on the environment. Do you think it's time we also started talking about the impact on the environment of smoking? Mr. Goel, you have to unmute yourself.
Good evening, everybody. To find myself amongst the battery of the enlightened people, I am seeing totally illuminated by your talks, and the people are really exceptional in their own fields. Let me introduce my lung care foundation, who is a robotic lung surgeon. The guy who could feel that the lungs, even without, those who don't smoke, when they come for the operation, he finds that they are black instead of the pink. So he thought, even without the smoking, the lungs are so bad because of the pollution around us. So he thought of forming this lung care foundation so that he could really contribute through the awareness, through various programs about the pollution. And
where is it based? Where is the Lung Care Foundation based?
It is based in Delhi.
Okay.
It is based in Delhi, and the Gangaram Hospital is the base center for that, where Dr. Arvind Kumar and Rajiv Khurana, who is another motivator and the guy with it, and me as the advisor. It is located in Gangaram Hospital, where Dr. Arvind Kumar is the chairman of the robotic surgery of the thoracic region. Then we have got another Green the Earth, and we do the plantation. Again, that term comes for the environment. That environment is to be made pure, and cigarette forms another part for it. And the third, we have the ECOSOCC, and we create IT parks and all. After I spoke to Pankaj Chaudhary, it really made me too sensible to install wherever possible the cigarette butt collection or the ashtrays in larger size, so that not even a butt needs to be really picked up, because that consumes the labor, and it can be really taken care in one single go. I was really astonished that in whole of the world, we produce more than 5 trillion of the cigarettes, which is more than the economy India is really looking forward to achieve in 2-3 years. And the cigarette domain has already crossed that, more than 5 trillion. Thereby, 18 billion of the cigarettes is consumed in per day. So where do the butts go? It is a profoundly and very apt the cause. Pankaj Chaudhary and all of us rather, they have come forward to see that the disposal, because it goes in the food chain, it really maligns, it really disturbs the whole ecosystem, flora, fauna of the ocean, of the lands, and we must do something about it. So that was
really
the thing.
Good, if an organization like yours comes to the forefront, joins with Pankaj and and younger people like Naman and Ayan and Gayatri.
Yeah.
There is so much power that the movement builds up from within. And with organizations like Finolex or Gangaram Hospital behind them, that power only multiplies.
Very true, very true. Because we human beings are exploiting and destroying the nature at an unprecedented rate, and efforts by government and public have been woefully inadequate. So now we have to join hands, shoulder to shoulder, make synergy of the available resources and the manpower and the different organizations to really quell this menace.
Right. So, which brings me to, because we talked about synergies between the government and the people. And, one of the most interesting bits of my conversation earlier with Mr. Kiisler, Mr. Kiisler, can you hear me? Mr. Kiisler, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, please.
The most interesting part of it was how your president, a remarkable lady, she leads the way by actually picking up cigarette butts, which have been littered on the streets. Now, please tell us, how have you been able to bring about public-private participation in this grand effort, in this big effort?
Well, first of all,
sorry.
Yes. First of all, the World Cleanup Day started from Estonia, so we have very strong track record and history in this, and the NGOs are very strong here, and the politicians respect very much the work the NGO is doing, because they became very popular when they started this cleanup day. First, they started just countrywide project in 2008. So they have lots of respect, and politicians listen to them, and I think it is really very important.
Right.
And therefore, more funds are available for different campaigns. And I think really the best results ever have become of the action of common people cleaning up waste, picking up waste and trash themselves. Because a person who has been collecting cigarette butts, for example, picking them up with his or her own hands, the next time he or she wants to snap the butt to the environment, I strongly believe that the person thinks it over and maybe looks for a trash bin for where to get rid of the waste. It's the same with all type of plastics, and I hope more and more people understand that cigarette butt is a type of plastics, as bad or even worse than drinking cup or whatever kind of trash. And I think this is the best way that the people, they themselves realize that somebody has to go out there and pick it up. I'm not so naive to believe that we can pick up all those cigarette butts with our own hands, but I strongly believe that the attitude will change.
Yes, I think that is the most important part of the business, getting people to change their attitudes. And that's what Pankaj Chaudhary, that's exactly what your organization is doing, creating mass awareness to help change attitudes. So, Pankaj, can you tell us that now that you have started creating sort of an awareness about cigarette butts, how are you going to carry this movement forward? Pankaj, you have to unmute yourself also.
Yes, so we are working with the cigarette butts campaign. So first of all, and in every process we have to first bring the awareness, and with the help of Let's Do It Indian Director of Projects and Communication, her name is Sourish, and An and Naman have talked. We are bringing a long-term plan for this recycling, and we are bringing in, because we have a large base in all the states, so we are bringing this recycling facilities to bring up in all the states in coming months. And also we are working with the government authorities, and I personally talked to the authorities, we that from the side of Let's Do It India, that they should put something behind the cigarette packets also, like they say that it is very dangerous to lungs. So I think they should also include this this thing that butts are very dangerous, or this is a toxic waste, or this is very bad for environment. So awareness will be compulsory for the cigarette makers, and so to have this printed in back of their cigarette packets. And also recently I have been talking with the Philip Morris Group also of India, who is the largest producer of tobacco, and they are also very much ready for bringing this awareness for the cigarette butts. And but I said them because we cannot promote smoking, so we cannot label them as our partners of ours, because it will not go with the health policies and health regulations. But and they are ready for that. They are saying that we do not want our name, but we would be ready to cooperate for you with this. So we have, and you would be amazed to know we are bringing this recycling, and we will definitely, because Naman has given us a very good the economical package, that we would be making profits also in this process of recycling.
That's right. I mean, in our country, if people see a business proposition and a really good business proposition like this, I'm
yes,
sure,
waste is wealth.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what people don't seem to realize. But now, I mean, like increasingly because of people like Naman, they will realize this. And I think people like what I call the young missionaries of the movement, like and Gayatri, you will be actually spreading the message to as many of your peers as you can. Now that brings me, like, how do you? Because I think the government, of course, has been doing a lot in promoting awareness about tobacco, the ill effects of tobacco consumption. How do you think it can now start creating a similar kind of awareness about cigarette butts? And because, one point, of course, is that which I think Anne mentioned, that a lot of with Gayatri mentioned, a lot of Indians don't smoke cigarettes. They smoke bidis, and bidis don't have any butts or any plastic in them. So we're actually reaching out to a smaller percentage of the total smoking population. How do you plan to reach out to them through the government? Yeah, Pankaj, the question is for you. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir. So we have brought this notice to the Secretary of Health
right.
Ministry also, and we are bringing, when they give this data to the ministries, because the bureaucrats also, they do not tend to listen too much. And so, but we were in a way that we were very stringent, and as a team we went on going to them and again from the month of February, that this is a toxic waste, understand this waste, and we are bringing some change. And we are getting help, like suppose we are getting the corporate cells, we are getting suppose Gayatri is very young and Naman is very young, so both of them are so young and bringing this particular matter to the people. This is very fantastic. So when I told them, this is a very innovative process, and India should be on the board with the world, where the world is moving into this direction. But fortunately they understood this, and they are bringing on this, that they are bringing some regulations for this, the cigarette butt also in the very coming months.
But I guess you also have to start talking to MPs and the state governments. I believe you're already in talks with Delhi government, or has the Delhi government done something to raise the issue of cigarette butts?
Unfortunately, because we have in our Indian constitution, we have this, because health is a concurrent list system in the states and center. Unfortunately, with Delhi, we couldn't do this, but we would be hopeful that we would be approaching them very soon.
Right. I guess you'll have to start approaching the state governments and MPs, so that someone brings a private member's bill. I think they have to learn from the Estonian politician compatriots, who actually listen to the NGOs, because they feel that NGOs represent the people, and after all, it's the people who vote them to power, or out of power. So it's very important that you serve as a link between people and people in authority.
I'd like to add something about the.
Is it Anne?
Yes, Anne.
Yeah, please.
I just wanted to add that last week we had a landmark, filing that within the next 3 months, that every government has to talk about how they are discarding their cigarette waste, or what is happening with cigarette waste in general. Like, it shouldn't be put into the wet waste because it diminishes the quality of the compost. It cannot be used in any other way but to find its own procedure. All the governments have been given from the Central Pollution Control Board. We've all been asked within 3 months to figure out how to dispose of the waste. So this happened only last week, after the Green Tribunal had no other reason to reject this. So we are excited to see what we will see in the new EPR guidelines, as well as Yes, it is. I think it took them 5 years to get this judgment. They've started fighting in 2015, and Doctors for You was the organization that goes after cigarette butts and BDs and other health-related concerns. But they realized that even the littering of cigarette butts it comes back to affect us.
Which organization did you say took the matter up to the NGT?
Doctors for You.
Doctors for You, okay. I think these are the heroes we should start talking about. These are the people who silently make a difference. People like you all, people like Pankaj, you are making the change. And I think we all talk about living the change and that we are the change. But someone has to start doing it, and I think you guys are showing the way. That's so good to hear. Now, Mr. Boudali, you have been listening to us, and so what are the lessons, from your lovely continent, from Africa? What are the lessons or case studies that we can learn from sitting in India?
Well, thanks again. Before even I start, I have to re-thank my colleague from Estonia and the government of Estonia for the great job they're doing, and especially the World Cleanup Day and the team of Cleanup Day, a wonderful team that's working for great cause. Touching base and let me come back again to that electronic cigarettes that you have mentioned, and it's a worsened problem. Generally consists on 4 components. We have to define what is the electronic cigarettes, from the cartridge or capsules which contain the e-juice solution in heating elements, a battery, and the mouthpiece. While the pods are now replaceable at first, the whole machine was completely disposable. So the plastic in the circuits all went straight to the trash or into the street. So the pollution problem has only worsened in the recent years as electronic cigarettes have become more popular. They are largely made of plastic, but it's getting ubiquitous, both from the use of electronic, from the electronic cigarettes and plastic waste that comes with it. It's just a different form of the same thing. There is still a generalized misunderstanding about the composition of the filters. The tobacco companies tried a variety of different filters materials, such as cotton, charcoals, and food stretched before landing on a plastic fiber, which remain a polymer of a choice of today. But evidence suggests that ventilated filters might have contributed to higher risk of lung cancer by allowing smokers to inhale more vigorously, thereby attracting in the cigarette smoke deeper into the lung tissues.
So let me, if I can intervene. So actually, the cigarette companies created a filter which made you, throw caution to the winds and smoke more. I mean, draw in more smoke than you would have normally done.
Exactly. That's exactly the definition. I mean, you choose to go to the other side, which is, the inhaling smoke. Technically, it's the same thing. You inhale more. It's rigorously. It tackles directly to the lung cancer. But we must, from the African Union version, we must come together across the world with the concerted strategy. No change in the consumer behavior improved recycling program or improve the recycling program can co-op with the sheer volume of low volume plastics, such as a single-use product. Let's see, for example, straws, bags, pods, without producers changing their products to create less waste. There is no much we can do when they design a product that has plastic in it, and it means to be burned. It's horrible design. It has to change, and the people who should pay to change it are the one who's doing it, not the rest of us. not the rest of us. So the local government in the environment have really paid for the externalized cost. We're done. It's time for them to get it back and to start paying the food in the big bill.
Right.
We think that communities, taxpayers in future generations should be dealing with the problem they didn't create. There is a need to be more educated and awareness, as well as appointed to recover the waste created by smoking. I think, and it should be the responsibility of the tobacco industry to provide that. No other place in the world successfully solved the problem of cigarette butts pollution unless they changed the packaging and disposed of the plastic filter. It's hard to do though, because they are lobbying. It's going to be a tough, big fight. It's not going to be easy at all.
I mean, it took such a long time for the tobacco industry to even accept the direct link between nicotine and nicotine consumption and lung cancer. I mean, we saw how they tried to hold it in every possible way, and how it took a battery of lawyers to combat them, actually.
Well, there is no other place in the world. I mean, as I say, that in the world that solve this problem of cigarette butts. Plastics is invading our oceans, causing untold environmental damage. This situation raises many questions. How does the plastic get into the ocean first place? Where does the waste come from? What we can do to avoid it? This is all major questions that we should tackle. Then there is the indirect damage caused by the marine population. Pollution, let's see, is well known around the world that the degradation of the ecosystem, exposure of flora or fauna to chemicals. More than 1 million animals die each year by confounding plastic with food. In addition, our health can be also suffer from this polymer. So it's the environment life cycle of tobacco that can be divided. Let's see, the environment is divided into 4 stages. The first is growing and curing tobacco. Then the second will be manufacture and distribution of product. Then we have consumption of product. Then we have post-consumer waste. So here we can describe the environment and the health concerns of each of these stages. It must be recommended to policymakers. Now this is the time to do some lobbyism, with acknowledgement of the fundamental and irreconcilable conflict between the interest of the tobacco industry and the interest of the public health policy.
I think you put it very, very eloquently. I think this is almost like the manifesto for the for our Let's Do It campaign, and people like you to go ahead. We have to step up the pressure on the tobacco industry, and we must realize that in our country there's a big lobby of tobacco farmers who are actually maligning activists who speak up against tobacco cigarettes, and they invariably raise the issue of farmers. Now, we know in a country like India, which is predominantly agricultural, anyone who raises the issue of farmers is bound to get a lot of sympathy, and especially if farmers are shown to be suffering because of the anti-tobacco campaign.
It's true. It's true. Let's say the global cultivation of the tobacco requires substantial land use, water
is a big
exactly water consumption, and without sustainable mitigation warning, cause major damage to the global economy and to the natural world, and endanger risk of catastrophic of greenhouse gas.
Sustainable mitigation is it's a very apt way to devise this. And the burden of sustainable mitigation should be on the industry.
Exactly.
They are the ones who created the problem. Now it's their job to mitigate the problem. Pankaj, you said that you are in talks with Philip Morris. How do you think the attitude of the tobacco industry has changed to the challenges such as this?
I think, they themselves approached me. I did not approach them. I think, the whole narrative which you have said, they're putting the farmers in front of this is what the farmers are suffering if we put so much up against tobacco. So I think the pressure is upon them, as the Anna has also said, because of NGT and because of, other authorities and because of the awareness campaigns like ours, like people are getting known that this is bad. So because, they also care for their brand value and everything. So, and they approached us. So I told them in the very beginning, we cannot promote you as a part campaigns for the cigarette butts. But I think because they want also, because pressure would be, because any company would be doing that in the company, if the government gives them direction that you have to look after, because ultimately they are the producers of this waste. So it's upon their duty to look after because for this waste.
Right, exactly. So in fact, they're the producers of the pollution.
Yes.
So by the way, I must Pankaj, you have a lovely green. You have one of the advantages of living in Delhi with a lot of greenery around you. Where are you?
So it's a Delhi University area.
Oh,
I live in
fantastic.
Trustee house. So, so it's a colonial house which they built, I think, in 1880s or 1890s.
Wow. Okay, so that's it. So green, and the Delhi University still is very fortunate to have lots of greenery around it. So now talking about greenery. Gayatri, coming back to this, to your voice, how do you think, and just talk to us about how, NGT has now put the ball into the court of state governments to come up with solutions against tobacco product waste, PPWs, as they're known as in scientific language. How do you think young people like you can be the leaders of the change? Because all of us are looking at, Generation Z. I think you belong to Generation Z, or maybe, the millennial generation.
I'm actually very old. I just look deceptively young.
Okay. Millennial generation or whatever. Okay. It's always nice to be young at heart, So, how, Gayatri, and I'll come to you in a minute, So, Gayatri, how do you plan to mobilize young people and make this, we see Pankaj is already doing it, but, can we see this movement expanding to other parts of India and becoming an all India voice?
I think at the forefront, what we do at Mukul Madhav Foundation is we believe in collaboration and not competition. Especially in the social sector, I don't think it makes sense to be competing like you would do when you're talking about a business or an industry. So, to be able to join such platforms, to have such conversations, to have associations like that of, connecting with someone like Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary helps to actually expand your network to be connected with like-minded people. Because I think, like I said, as an individual, you can only do so much. But what we need to realize is that an individual's effort is good enough to start the chain, right? And I think when you're in a environment where you're with like-minded people and you are able to convince them to at least start that journey, you can see a ripple of change coming your way. And also, like I mentioned, I think you need to believe in a cause, and that's when you stand up for it. So for me to have wanted to actually reach out to friends and family who run businesses or run other organizations and request them to also participate in this, I think it came from the fact that I actually felt for the cause. I realized the repercussions if things go on the way they do. And I think, like Mr. Khalid said, that we as a generation are suffering what are we are successors of those who've created sort of this mess that we're dealing with. So it's only in our hands to make it better for our future generations as well as for ourselves. So I think a lot of collaboration here and being open to ideas, I think that's the way forward, really. I'm sure that I have the support of a handful of 10 friends who are watching today while I'm live here. Them being of the same age group and then talking to 10 others, I think that's where we've just started the chain. So
you're a big believer in the ripple effect,
absolutely, yeah. Yes.
So, Anne, what are your thoughts on the subject? How do you make this a national movement?
I totally agree with what Gayatri had to say, and that's why even with the vision of wasted, like how we started is we did not want we work with other waste management companies. We don't look at it like competition. We don't look at it like as first entrance. We talk about more about growth. Okay, if I'm collecting this kind of waste, why don't you take this, and then we'll do better and focus our energy on what our strengths are, and that has helped us a lot. And even about asking the user to be responsible, it's a 50-50 thing. We feel like a producer brings 50% to the table and a consumer who is consuming the product brings 50% to the table, and it's very sorry, it's peak traffic time. We believe that only when both of these forces join, along with government agencies, change makers, NGOs, it's a long fight. It's a very hard, long fight, and we will have to work on it in a way that we all collaborate, we all work towards a goal that is in a way that would impact people for years ahead. Like they shouldn't be going through what we are facing at the moment. So when people say plastic is in oceans, how did it get there? Everyone is like, I don't know. We we collect plastic. There shouldn't be debris in the ocean. We don't know where it goes. That kind of accountability has to start coming from different people. Like we have to, as a consumer, we have to ask our brands to be more accountable. If we are shopping with a brand and we are creating this waste, we have to reach out to them. Or if you don't have the time or efforts, reach out to an NGO who is fighting on your behalf, who's doing advocacy work, who's trying to create a change, like Doctors for You. If we had known about it, or if we had known this fight was happening, we would have joined the bandwagon. We would have got more people onto it to make our voice louder. And we didn't even know this was happening till the good news came out. And if there were forums, talks about this, to be honest, brands won't be involved. I'm just going to say that out there because it's the capitalistic world, and whether they are more about creating and generating things, and they look at a P&L and a balance sheet and profits. So it's always going to be that kind of to change that mindset is not going to happen in our lifetime. So it's more about, okay, we are creating this space. Now what do we do about it? And who are the players that can be involved in seeing that it doesn't end up in a landfill or cause harm? Because I'm not going to fight about reducing consumption anymore. We do want to give help to smokers. If you are a smoker, we do want to help you to quit smoking. But to go out there and tell people that smoking is harmful for your health, it's a lost fight, because then to take the next step and say it's harmful for the environment, they're like, I don't care that it affects me or harms me. Why do I care about the environment? So, we are hoping that people like Pankaj and Let's Do It India and Let's Do It World do the awareness part of it. We will help in the collection. It's taken us 2 years to make material and collection units so that we collect it perfectly from different people, from individuals to larger organizations. And then we have people like Naman. We have university departments, biotech departments, who are trying to find a solution for the end waste as well. That is not only in cushion or cotton or compost, it's over and above that. So it would have usage in different industries, and we feel this would make a lot of difference. The next 10 years will define how the next 100
So
are
can you
going to be.
tell me a little bit about Waste 360 solutions? How did you? I mean, a lot of people do a lot of businesses, but how did you choose your line of business?
How did I choose waste management? Is that what you are? Okay.
How did your company come about? Because it's also a very micro sector of waste management.
Yes.
You would be amazed to know, Sourish, she's an actress also.
Wow. Okay.
Ex-actress.
Pankaj, you really know how to select the right people.
And then put them on the spot. So I was working in a software company, and we used to work for the police department and create a lot of apps and tech related products for them. While that journey was happening side by side, I started segregating at home. It became a rule in Chennai that you have to segregate your wet and dry waste. And while having a conversation with the person who was taking the waste from my house. He put two piles aside, and there was a huge pile and a very small pile. And I asked him, why did you differentiate both of these things? And he said, this will get recycled, and this huge pile will go to the landfill. And that made me wake up and realize why is this category going to the landfill, and breaking that down and identifying about 40 categories of waste which cannot be processed. There's no industry to process it, or it requires at least 2 to 3 steps of work before it can be processed. So and cigarette butts is one of them. In fact, how much ever we talk about cigarette butts, even cigarette boxes are a huge pain. It
Oh, really?
has a
Okay.
plastic component, it has a foil component, it has a paper component. Immediately makes it into a category that is rejected by all three of the players and recyclers. So that's how my journey in low value or zero value waste started. I didn't want to work in the department, especially in India. We have rag pickers. World
Right.
Cleanup Day should be dedicated to the heroes of
Yeah.
India. Who we have more than 1.4 million people who work in this and
Right.
keep our streets clean. If they didn't exist, our streets would be way worse than it is at the moment. So we didn't want to take away their livelihood. We didn't want to work in plastic that has value. We didn't want to work with paper
Right.
or carton or any of this. We wanted to dive deeper into low value waste, out of which our two focus areas are cigarette butts and used beverage cartons.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Use beverage cartons. Okay.
Used
So,
beverage cartons,
so these are
yes.
Tetra Pak cartons.
Yes, yes.
Oh, interesting. That's another. That can be another subject of another
That's
discussion.
another subject, another day.
We won't clutter it today, But that's
Yeah.
fantastic. It's really inspiring, the work that you guys are doing,
Thank
Naman,
you.
you've been really silently listening to us and smiling all the time. So tell us something more about how did you get interested in this subject? What's your background?
Sure, sir. So my background is completely commerce. Like I am 26 years old right now.
Wow. Okay.
So like we identified this problem of cigarette waste like in 2016. And since then we are working and focusing on this single segment of cigarette waste management and recycling.
So
And
how did you suddenly, of all the things in the world, when did you zero in on cigarette waste?
Sir, basically we faced the same problem in our own area. Like in our college times, we had a bunch of friends who
Are you from Delhi University or?
Yes, I studied from Delhi University,
Okay.
and in that time we had a bunch of friends, out of which some were smokers.
Yeah.
So we used to have different ashtrays or receptacles in which the cigarette waste was disposed. So
Right.
that sparked the idea of what is happening about this waste and what can be done
Right.
regarding this waste.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yes, sir.
And so you started from there. And now
Yes.
everyone talks about the sustainable environment and all that, but is your business sustainable? Are you quite happy that you've chosen this line of business?
Sir, we are happy running this business because before us there was no specific laws or guidelines or some other player who might be recycling this particular kind of waste. So the
Right.
public support that we received from the whole nation is immense, sir.
Right.
So that is boosting our morale, and it is
Right.
pushing us to work on this concept from the day one.
So
And
how
our
many
mod
how many how many tons of cigarette waste you get every month or year?
Sir, it varies.
How much you handle?
It varies, but because we deal in dry materials only, because if
Right.
it's wet, so it can degrade very fast. So
Okay.
we specifically deal in the dry waste. So in the monsoon season, the quantity is less because
Right.
people generally smoke at a enclosed area. They don't use the public area, so the collection is low.
Right.
But annually, we are generating more than 20,000 kg. So in terms of numbers, that is in millions, like around 200, 300 million cigarette butts are being
Wow.
recycled currently, sir.
So you're doing tremendous work, I think. And that's just one unit. Just imagine if you had hundreds of units, you would have solved much of the problem by now. I will ask Mr. Goel. You've heard everyone, and what do you think, as Lung Care Foundation, how do you now carry this message forward and, make it meaningful for people to start thinking about, the cigarette butts and the problems they cause to the environment?
Well, let me tell you, this much amount of that 6 trillion cigarettes, we use about 4 million hectare and 22 billion tons of the water. And it produces 84 million tons of the carbon footprints. Right. It is really worrying for everybody. And this cigarette butt was introduced in 1950. Since then, there was no thought given for the proper disposal of these cigarette butts. It is good that Let's Do It India has started this movement, and this movement is above any caste, creed, or religion. So I think it is a movement which should gather, and our Lung Care Foundation, ECOSOCC, and Green the Earth, we are really poised, we are really through with it. We have got multiple groups, and our slogan should be meet one, tell one. That whosoever is smoking, even if he is not smoking, because 70% of the people who smoke lesser or more, you will be astonished to know we spend around 370 rupees on cigarette per week in India. These are the statistics. So we should be really concerned.
So the per capita expenditure on cigarettes is 370 rupees.
Per week.
Per week, yeah.
Per week. And we generate around 39,885 tons of the butts. So I think it's a big market. It is a big area. It is a big concern. And the people like Let's Do It India and many more who have just come up. And we need to think seriously. And once a movement starts, the thing which did not start from 1950 when this butt formation was made mandatory, I think we have awakened up and the seed has already been sown. And we are optimistic that with the all concerted efforts and the joint efforts, because 70% of the people who smoke, they are ignorant. They are ignorant about the calamitous effect of these butts. So in case they come to know about it, you'll be astonished to know in India, there is a rule that cigarette smoking is injurious to health, is published, is printed on every cigarette packet. As per rule, you are not supposed to sell a single cigarette. But we do sell, looking to the economic, socio-economic condition. Otherwise, the cigarette smoking is injurious to health, should reach to every smoker if he buys the full packet, whereas we are not. We are not adhering to it. So in case this advice is also printed that take care of the butt, don't throw here and there, keep it in a place where it can be recycled at a very nominal way. I think this will go a long way to address this issue, and I'm sure and I'm very optimistic that once we have started, the issue will be addressed one day or the other, because this is for the social concern for the total society.
In fact, you said that among the various people involved with Lung Care Foundation, ECOSOCC is one of them, and ECOSOCC has been developing IT parks. I hope one of the things you will get doing, is getting ECOSOCC to start this whole.
Surely we have already implemented because of the Corona note. Many people are coming, so we are not finding that. But yes, it will be implemented once
once the lockdown is completely. So once the people start working again, in their offices, That's a fantastic thing. I will, we are sort of drawing to an end of the discussion. I will ask our two foreign guests, Mr. Kiisler and Mr. Boudali, to give give their impressions of this entire discussion, and then I'll ask Pankaj to wind down and wind up the proceeding, which I'm sure you will have some inspirational words at the end. I can hear a lot of birds chirping behind you. Lovely setting that you have. Mr. Kiisler, could you please, share your views of the discussion and your advice to the people who are involved in this movement?
It has been really interesting for me to listen and learn what is done in India, especially, and I am very impressed by the recycling facilities, the way you describe how you recycle cigarette butts. It's very impressive. And I agree completely that long-term solution is circular economy. And for that, all the circular economy starts from the design, of the product. So I agree here completely that if you, it's up to the producer, what's the design, how easy it is to recycle the product, the used product afterwards. So as it was discussed, it's not only about the cigarette butts, but also the packages, everything. So we need to, I think the governmental institutions need to, authorities need to put more pressure on the producers, on the design, regulation of the design. But it has been really a pleasure to listen to you and learn from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think Pankaj deserves the credit for bringing together this lovely team. Mr. Boudali, any parting thoughts before we give Pankaj the last words?
Yes, thank you very much. First, I do ask the young lady that she have do the best to have her father quit. I hope that she shared that that methods with us so we can learn from it. And also I have to congratulate all the Indian team, especially let's do India for the extraordinary work. I think this kind of talks that let us learn from each other and exchange and exchange even good ideas, and probably we can create a good team with World Cleanup Day, so we can come up with the roadmap to pressure and lobby for the better well-being, the well-being of the population of the world, especially here in Africa. But let me conclude my remarks with I insist on a policy action in those urgently needed to curtail emission. I mean, the longer that action is delayed, the greater the accumulation of in the atmosphere, and the more abrupt and costly will be the necessary action to stabilize global temperature, the transition toward cleaner energy sources, and reduce energy consumption require overcoming externalities both at home and internationally. And I will strongly recommend to come up with some recommendations to implement the extended producer responsibility regulations into the tobacco industry to reduce, mitigate, and prevent manufacturing and post-consumer waste from the tobacco product. Also to extend the regulations of the sale of tobacco product to eliminate single-use filter, including all the biodegradable varieties, to reduce post-consumer waste. And then to initiate litigation in economic intervention to recover the cost. And that's the most important thing, to recover the cost of the malpractice and the environmental damages. And then nevertheless, to innovate, improve, and enforce new existing environmental regulations and agreements that might apply to the manufacture, transport, and management and post-consumer tobacco waste. I thank you very much, and I have learned a lot from you, and I thank everyone, all the participants, especially the panelists, and I wish you all a good luck and thanks again.
Okay. So Pankaj, I think you're a professor of environmental law. I think what Mr. Boudali just said, should give you enough thought for action. I think there is a lot. I mean, you have achieved a lot, but the road ahead is far larger. And in fact, I was just thinking while listening to Mr. Kiisler and Mr. Boudali, that say a company like ITC, which is a major producer of cigarettes in India, it is also heavily invested in the paper board manufacturing business. In fact, Bhattacharyya Paper is one of the biggest paper companies of the country, and they are the ones who are producing the packaging material for ITC's cigarettes. they're also producing the paper that wraps the cigarettes and the paper that wraps the filters. So that now here is the case of the cigarette industry also being involved in packaging business, which is doubly harmful. I think there are lots of thoughts that have come out of this discussion. So Pankaj, what is your vision now, and how do you want to make it into a truly mass movement?
First of all, as I already mentioned, it's all the awareness campaign. Firstly, we should be aware of. You will be amazed to know that, sorry sir, that the one sachets which we sell in the Indian market, ₹1, ₹2 shampoos, Head and Shoulder, and Unilever, it's nowhere in the world they sell like this. And the one you have told, like the cigarette packaging, this is something, the multi packaging, and it's a very it's non-recyclable basic. So basically, we have in our mind that plastic is a recyclable, but when there is a multi-layered plastic, it's a microplastic. You cannot recycle them. Even the big companies, multinational companies like Unilever, they sell like these sachets here in India. Right. They can't, by policies or by the regulations of the other countries, they can't do this. So we require a very strong policy framework in India itself. That I teach international environment law. So we have in our international environment law polluters pay principle. And this should be very strongly enforced in India. I think this is the only way out for we should be working on. And the cigarette butt which we have discussed, they are the real fugitive for our society. It's about we should we stop neglecting them, instead walk toward building a healthier, or you may say a cleaner, greener environment, while creating a proper disposal for the waste, like the and the Naman are working on. And this can only be happened if you have a good team. Like I had the Gayatri, Payal Rajpal, Supriya, Pawan is also a part of a team. It's basically a team efforts which you have. Firstly, you should have I always tell to my students also, the 5 people made people a god in the history. So you always require a team to work for anything. So if you have a strong team, then you can do anything in this world.
That's right. That's so wonderful to hear. That's the spirit of the discussion today. Thank you very much. Thank you for sparing your time. We normally have these discussions wrapping up in 1 hour. Just 1 hour 26 minutes. So shows how interesting this subject is, and I'm sure more discussions will come out of this whole issue. There's a lot to be done in the area, and I wish you all the best. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your participation. I take your leave and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Sourish sir. Thank you so much. I would like to thank Pankaj, Let's Do India, and all the other participants who joined us today. Thank you so much for taking our time. Yes, generally it's an hour-long session, but like Sourish sir mentioned, that it was very intriguing. Everybody had so much to offer, both in terms of the problem and the solution. The way we can come out of this menace. It's fantastic to see the kind of traction we are getting on Facebook. And my friend just told me that we have reached more than 2,500-3,000 people as well. So it's fantastic. People are coming forward on a Saturday evening and watching this. They should not go back and start smoking after this. That's another thing. But great to have you guys here. Thank you so much again on behalf of Tiffin Talks. Pavan and Prachin Kohli, my partner, couldn't join me today. There's some problem with his network, so he is logged off. But please follow us on our Facebook and on Instagram page. It's by the name Tiffin Talks, and this video will be put on YouTube channel as well, our own YouTube channel called Tiffin Talks, and will be sent across to you guys, and then you can of course forward it, spread the love, spread the cheer. We are trying to bring some interesting conversations during these tough times, and hope we sort of solved some issues for all the viewers who are watching us today. Thank you so much. Till we meet next, it's goodbye and good evening. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.